G'day, Blue Baggers, and welcome to Blues Footy Live, your weekly dose of Carlton with your host, Jed Zetz here, alongside my co-host, Jono Baruch. Welcome to the show, Jono.
It's great to be here with you, Jed. Got another gig as the medical sub. It's great to come on in and have a chat with you for about 35 minutes here, just about all things Carlton.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. Jono, very quickly, before we get stuck into things, last week, what did you make of the game? We got a review last week before we can sort of preview the upcoming game. What were your thoughts on it? Just if you had to summarize in a few words.
It was a pretty meh type of day, pretty meh type of game, and sort of as we just went on like throughout, like we're playing against a quality team. Like Melbourne aren't just a finals team; they are every bit a premiership contender this year, and they kept us at arm's length pretty much for most of the day. I didn't necessarily think we were a chance going into the game, and then Cunningham goes down in the first minute of the game, and then that just sucks the life out of you even further, I guess. So from there, it was just kind of like, well, this day's already going to be a bad one, no matter how the result goes. But I think it's almost like, well, we're here now. We sort of saw that coming, and we've now come up against 5 top 8 sides and 5 quality top 8 sides. And I think we know where we're at now, and I wasn't expecting much more from Sunday, to be honest.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it was, you described it well. It was a pretty boring one, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I wasn't there. I was watching from home. I couldn't get along to the game on Sunday like you did, but even then, it looked like it was pretty cold outside and with not much excitement happening on the field from a Carlton point of view. It looked like it was a wise decision to stay home.
Yeah, it was pretty dull, that's for sure. Let's look ahead at the week that we've got coming up. Jono, we take on the Hawks Saturday at the G. Talk to us about some team news, some players who we can expect to get back this week. You have a little injury update for us, and just for the Blue Baggers watching, just remember, send through any questions or comments you'd like, and we will address them throughout the show. Jono, give us the injury rundown.
Yeah, well, firstly, just on this Saturday, I think we've used this term a few times. Saturdays are non-negotiable. If we want to
getting frustrated with market research with SEMrush Market Explorer, in a single click, you can reveal market size, spot market.
I don't even know what that is, to be honest.
Yourself against the competition.
Looks like we've had a little technical difficulty there with Jono. He'll be back shortly. Not sure. I'm not sure where he's gone there, but he'll be back shortly. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game on Saturday. I'm going to provide a little injury update considering Jono is unable to do so at the moment. So great news. H is going to be fit to play. We saw him go off with that shoulder injury, and for the better part of, I think it was the second quarter when he went off, it was looking pretty concerning. But yeah, he managed to come back on bag 3 as he does. And then he was good to go again. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. Welcome back, John.
Yeah, sorry about technical difficulties.
Mate, that's what happens when we go live. There's no covering it up.
The wonders of live internet and television. But I'm sure you were giving an injury update.
I was giving one on H. So I was speaking about how it was a bit concerning when he went down, but he managed to get back out there, bag 3, and now he's fit to play, which is huge. Can you give us a wrap up of the other players who are on the injury list?
Yeah, well, Harry Mackay, according to Andrew Russell and the Carlton injury report, he said is all fine and good to go. Said he'd been carrying it for a couple of weeks now, but it must have just been a bad shoulder stinger. It will be interesting to see if he gets through training tomorrow and if he is named on a Thursday night. We finally get our teams back on a Thursday night, so we'll be able to have that conversation. But so it looks like he'll be good to go. Jack Silvani will be good to go to come in after the week off with concussion. And there's also a decision looming regarding Jack Martin in terms of whether or not the coaching staff will be willing to throw him straight in or give him another week to prove his fitness. But regardless of whether or not he is playing football this week, Jack Martin's not playing in the VFL. Like, if he's ready to play football, he's coming straight into the AFL side.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. And I mean, with Martin, it's a tough one because with the amount of injuries that we've seen this year across the league, I'm sort of the opinion that if there's even 1% doubt, it's not worth bringing him in. Just wait the extra week. That's why I've sort of been quite content with how they've handled De Koning. But yeah, I mean, look, if they're going to play him in the VFL, then they may as well put him into the AFL side. He's so important, and he's actually crucial right now. Jack Martin adds another layer to our midfield because I assume now, with the way that our midfield's been tracking, he will play there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from what you were saying before about Tom De Koning, I think they might err on the side of caution and give him another week, even though I personally would love them to pull the trigger and get him in there because we need him in there. But I think definitely if Martin comes in, he'll be that hit up forward, pushing up into the midfield rotation, kind of like what Cunningham was doing and Zach Williams was doing before they sent him back last week. So I think he'll be that spark in the centre of the ground and forward of the ball, which is, well, it's what David Cunningham was providing for the 4 or so weeks that he was in the team. He was really providing that speed and burst and cleanliness out of the middle in terms of what he was offering, and that's 100% what Jack Martin can do. It's what we brought him across the club to do, and be that clean ball user in the front half and out of the centre of the ground. So it's certainly a role that I can see him playing.
Yeah, no, I hope so. I really do hope so. The other one, I guess, is De Koning. Do you think that he'll play, and how important is it for him to play?
I don't know if he will. And that's just my gut feeling. I think they might give him another run in the VFL, but if I was the selector, and I'm sure many of the viewers at home that'd be longing for him to come in purely because he's the one. He's the type of ruckman that can be athletic. He can get around the ground, and I can understand not wanting to bring him last week and throwing him to the wolves against Max Gawn, who's one of the best players in the competition at the moment. But you look at Hawthorn and what they're coming off. They're coming off a really bad loss to North Melbourne. Ben McAvoy is their ruckman, is their captain. He's meant to be this big physical presence, like follow me, boys. And I can sense that maybe if they do bring in De Koning for his first game of the season, coming off a long back injury, it could be a real baptism of fire. And that's not saying that De Koning isn't up to it, especially this week, but it might just be for his own good, like nurse him back another week through the VFL. Like, not sure who Hawthorn's backup ruckman is in the VFL. I think it might be Keegan Brooksby. So give him another run on more managed game time and really build him up to make sure that he is cherry ripe and ready to go at AFL level, because we need him. We need him in the AFL side, fit and firing, and as soon as possible.
I agree, mate. As I said before, if they're not 100% ready, it's not worth it. De Koning's too significant of a player to possibly lose for longer, so we need him to be absolutely perfect before we bring him in. There's a couple of questions that are coming through. TDK for Pitternet, Jack for Casbolt, and SPS for Cunningham. I'm not sure personally if they'll take out both Pitternet and Casbolt. I can't really see it happening.
If you're going to play De Koning, you need to leave at least one of them in there. He can't go at it alone. That's no knock on Tom De Koning. That's purely because he's only played less than a dozen games in his career. So you don't want to be throwing him 100% to the wolves like that, and particularly coming off a long injury. So I think the right mix is a Pitternet and a Casbolt. The only problem is you can't exactly rest Pitternet forward. You'd have to rest Pitternet off the ground, whereas you can have De Koning resting in the forward line.
Yeah. I like this comment from Yanko. I see a lot of Carlton like the Cats were in 06. Well, if we go on that trajectory, I don't think we'll be complaining, Jono, will we?
Don't mind that at all, Yanko. But there's a lot of those comparisons being thrown up. The Cats of 2006, Melbourne in 2017 when they narrowly missed the finals, even Richmond in 2016 when just nothing happened for them that year, and it looked like there was a lot of turmoil off field, and then it all just came together type thing. So there's a lot of comparisons being thrown around, and from the outside looking in, this is my glass half full take. It looks like that we are really, really close, and it looks like it's very close from coming together. But you also look glass half empty. It's a lot of moving parts, and the talent is 100% there on the list. But how do you build a team? Do you build a champion team, or do you build a team of champions? And I think definitely come the end of the year, it's another big one for Nick Austin and the list management team. And even now we'll speak about later a couple of picks in the mid-season draft and what we might be able to do to look at there for some stopgaps and potentially recruiting for later down the line. So it's going to be a very interesting back end to the season for a lot of areas and places at this football club.
Absolutely. Shea Blues says wrapped for Kemp playing this weekend, and absolutely we are wrapped. There was a question earlier. I'll try find it. It was someone asked about Kemp and what we expect to see from him. I don't know, personally, I am not going to worry about Kemp until he's played a solid amount of Resi's games and is eventually ready to play seniors.
Yeah, no, but by all means, head down to Icon Park this Sunday and watch him play. You're going to be on managed game time. It's the first time we get to see him. He was a utility in his draft year before he did his ACL. Can play anywhere. I think Dale Amos said in the preseason that they were training him with the defenders and is going to start playing across half back, because everyone starts playing across half back these days when they start their career. So I think that's almost the position where it's going to be groomed to play, kind of that intercepting, taller type player across half back line who can distribute the ball really well. But like you said, Jed, don't expect much, particularly in like the first month. Like he's coming off an ACL injury and then is coming off a serious ankle injury. So he hasn't played in about 18 months. So yeah. Longer. So you really need to give him the time, give him the patience. And it'll be the same with Charlie Curnow when he eventually comes back, which is getting sooner. But it will be the same. Like, you've just got to have a lot of patience with these guys. And yes, they're going to be significant inclusions to our team when they get there and when they're ready. But we're just going to need to wait and have a little bit of patience.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Jono, let's look at the key matchups for this week's match against the Hawks, because there's some big ones. Who do you think that they'll put on H?
I think they'll put there's two options. I think Kyle Hartigan will probably get H. He's a bit undersized, but if they want to try and match him in size, they'll go Sam Frost. But I reckon they'll put Kyle Hartigan on Harry McKay, who should be too big and strong for. But Kyle Hartigan's there's no mug. He's played over 150 games for Adelaide and now Hawthorn. So he does know a little bit what he's doing. But I'm not too worried about that, because we've just seen H go to stratospheric levels this year, where he's just like started building himself in, and now he's not taking a lot of set shots, but when he does take his set shots, it's not really missing.
No, I agree. The next one I was going to bring up was an interesting one. I'm not sure. I've got two, but I'll go with this one first. The two are Tom Mitchell and Jaeger O'Meara, because I think they are Hawthorn's damaging midfielders. Do we take a tagging approach there, or just go, man up in the midfield and see which one wins? Just go one-on-one.
I think Mitchell you can sort of go head to head with. I know he racks up a lot of the ball, but a lot of it is the getting the handball out of the congestion and then clearing it out to the likes of O'Meara, Cousins, Shields, and those types. So I think if you're going to really stop one of them, I think you run with O'Meara because he's the type. He's almost the playmaker of that Hawthorn midfield. They're the two prime movers in the engine room, although Mitchell always finds a way of turning it on against us as he did last year. We can't forget the way that game sort of panned out. Talk about a 5-goal swing. Well, that was about a 10-goal swing by the end of it. But they're sort of the prime ones in the midfield. And there's a few at the other end of the ground, which is like the main players that I think we desperately do need to put some time into. There's a couple ahead of the ball, one behind the ball. They're not they'll flash in and out of games, but when they do that, they really kill everyone. I'm talking about Chad Wingard and Luke Bruce as well. Again, not the tallest player, not the biggest monster, but Luke Bruce is almost that guy you can set up and properly correct Hawthorn's forward line. And he's small, but he's kicked well over 500 goals in his career. I think is crafty as anything. Is one that we really do need to put a lot of time into. And I'd be sort of looking at, I don't know if both of these guys are going to play because I'm thinking one of them will probably go out, but I'm looking at a Plowman or a Parks to sort of play that role on a Luke Bruce. And then for a Wingard, you probably are leaving that up to someone like a Nick Newman type thing, someone who's tall enough to be able to go with him in the air, but is also nimble by his feet and can use the ball if he gets the ball.
Yeah, no, it's a fair call. It's definitely fair. This is a nice comment which has been brought up. Plowman plays his 100th game for Carlton this weekend. Speaking of Lockie Plowman, which Hawthorn forwards do we need to be wary of, and how do you think we'll line up? Because obviously Kazitsky's probably their main man down there, and you'd assume that Wiedering goes to him. How do the rest of our defenders line up on their forwards?
Yeah, I think Wiedering will go to Kazitsky. I think Jones will go to Mitchell Lewis if he plays. I think they're gonna look to bring in a couple from the VFL. Tyler Brockman had a really good game. Josh Morris kicked a handful, but in fairness to Box Hill, North Melbourne's VFL team were fielding half of VAFA team. They've got so many injuries, North Melbourne, and it's really filtering down to the VFL level. So he kicked 5, but it wasn't against much. But then again, Hawthorn struggling to kick a score at the moment, so they might look to bring him in. So I think they're going to bring Brockman in as well. You could definitely see, there was a comment before about Doherty playing on the wing, and he played really well up the ground last week, but I think it might be a necessity to have him playing off half back and giving him a role on a Brockman type or maybe even a Bruce type or something like that. Just making sure, because they're going to have a lot of smaller guys who are nimble on their feet, that we make sure that we can cover them, not only on the ground, but also in the air. And I like this comment as well from Yanko, again, very good friend of the show, Yanko, for a non-Blues man. But Jarman Impey is definitely one that we need to watch. And I think 100% we need to employ a defensive forward on him. So whether that be a Lockie Fogarty or a Jack Silvani, who can come in and play that role, because Impey's there. Impey tries to be their side. He's the one that bounces out of the back line and can set up their play with elite kicking and can even push forward and find the goals. So he's 100% one player that we really need to put some time into.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Impey's definitely one of their best players this year. And I think people are agreeing. And John's brought up a good point, Impey and CJ as well. Now, those two have been playing really well. I guess this week it's really important that we nail our inside 50 entries, because they haven't been great this year, and the ball keeps it's almost like a slingshot. It goes in and it comes straight back out. So we need to make sure that we're hitting the target. We need Levi to be on with his marking. We know what we're going to get from Harry. It's going to be super, super interesting to see how that all unfolds. And Tim says it's a perfect role for Owies. I'm assuming that is to play on Impey. What are your thoughts there, Jono?
I wouldn't be putting Owies on Jarman Impey. I think is as much as Owies has that basketball background and is quick on his feet, I just think Impey is a bit too athletic for him. So I'd be giving. I'm not quite sure who else who Hawthorn small defenders are, because they might be bringing in Sean Burgoyne as well. Which could be funny, a battle of the old men in the forward pocket of the MCG with Sean Burgoyne on Eddie Betts. So that could be a funny one to watch. But I don't think they'll give that role to Owies. I think there's I think you need to give Impey the respect. And I'm not saying I don't rate Matthew Owies, but I just think it's too big a job for him at this stage. But back on what you were saying on the forward entries, it's 100%. You're 100% right, because they'll just intercept everything and they might not take the mark, but they'll probably pound it away. And it's just we're very easy to play against because it's what we just keep on doing. We just keep on pounding it in the hope that Harry McKay will take the mark. We'll hopefully get a bit of extra height in Jack Silvani down there this week, and maybe Tom de Koning as well coming in and providing a bit of a target up there as well, but also trying to just be a bit more creative with the ball movement and not necessarily chaos when we move the ball, and because we like playing that fastish style game. But it's really just making sure that we're using those hit-up targets. So if you bring in a Jack Martin, make sure he's really leading up with the ball carrier. Ditto Lockie Fogarty and Matt Owies. Make sure that Harry is playing deep and being isolated one-on-one with either Carl Hardigan or Frost. It's really making sure that we're being smart using the ball, because we've got no problem with getting it in there. It's just making sure that it doesn't balance out. And when we do get it in there, let's make sure that when it is coming out, it's coming out to the centre square for a centre bounce.
Yeah. Blue Bag is tuning in. Make sure to send in any questions, any comments you might have. We will address them all. And also, let's get on to team changes, Jono. So everyone watching, send in your team changes. Who do you think will come in and who do you think will go out? Jono, you're David Teague. What are you doing this week on the team sheet?
So I'm pulling the trigger and I'm bringing Tom de Koning in.
Yeah.
Jack Silvani comes in. I want to see Lockie O'Brien. There's a lot of chat about our wingers and who we've been playing on the wing. I know we've been having a look at Jack Nunes went out of the side recently. We've been persisting with Matthew Cottrell for a while. Even tried Setterfield on the wing, which didn't really work. But I'd like to see Lockie O'Brien have another crack. If not now, then maybe later in the year. Now, it might be too late, but we are just never going to know. And it's the perfect, in my opinion, it's the perfect opportunity for him. You've had a closer look than me at O'Brien's VFL form over the last few weeks. I know there was a bye a couple of weeks ago, but how's he been going in the last 3 weeks? And do you think he deserves a shot?
I'd say that he had 2 really solid games. And they were solid games, but I wouldn't really bring him in off those games. It was more just like, if he can put together 4 to 6 weeks of that, then he'll be knocking on the door for team selection. Was it enough to come straight in? Wouldn't have thought so. And then when we played against Footscray, I'm not sure why.
He was sick that day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did look a little bit sick. I'm not sure why. He just had a lot of time on the bench, was coughing a lot on the sidelines. So I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into anything there, but just sort of looked not 100%. So I personally wouldn't be bringing O'Brien in, and I don't think that they will. I just think we need to make sure players are earning their games. Has he earned it?
Yeah,
not quite yet. Is he on the right track? Yes, I think he is, but needs a couple more weeks of solid form. What I would just say, though, is I need to see Josh Honey. I'm getting restless. I want Honey in.
Yeah, well, he's on my list of ins. I reckon if you want spark in the forward line, he's the perfect player. He's quick on his feet. He's got a real turn of speed. kick his goals nicely. But yeah, he's 100% one that I'd love to get in there. So I've got about four changes. It's if I'm the coach, I'm going to Koning, Jack Silvani, where are my notes, Josh Honey, and if Jack Martin's fit, 100% he comes in. And going out, David Cunningham, unfortunately, with the injury, speedy recovery, mate. Michael Gibbons goes back out. Levi Casbolt probably goes out. And I think Matthew Cottrell, he'll leave us in a sticky position in terms of the wings and actually trying to put people in there that have the proper run and the carrier can get up and back and use the ball well. But I think he hasn't put a number of good games together now. And I was supportive of Nunes going out of the side before Cottrell, but I think Cottrell's on notice. If he's not out this week, he's probably definitely out next week. And that's why I brought up Lockie O'Brien, because it's like, well, he has been a bit flat. Let's see if another genuine winger can do any better. But with that being said, no matter what changes are, it's a absolute non-negotiable must-win game this week, and the team selection needs to reflect a team that is going to do anything to get the 4 points and really save their season, because I think the draw opens up for us in the second half of the year. It's definitely it's going to be hard, but making the finals from here is definitely not an insurmountable task. But these are just the jobs that you just need to do. So it's rock up, do the business, go home with the 4 points.
Yeah, no, it's fair call. And you're right. This is one of those matches where it's just like, get there, take 4 points and get out.
Get it done.
We can lose this weekend. Jono, I just quickly, while we're on sort of the team changes, you provided us with an update on Charlie Curnow and Oscar McDonald. There's a couple of people who messaged me before the show and said, we want to know when realistically could we maybe see them back? Can you ask Jono? So here I am asking you the question. How far off do you think we are from seeing Charlie Curnow back in the side?
I'm not sure is the honest answer, but from the various viewing opportunities that I've had, he's looking, I can assure everyone, he is looking fantastic. He looks strong. He's running well. He's kicking well. He's in some drills. He's going to get into more drills and training as the weeks go on. I don't think he's going to be fully integrated, at least until before the bye. And I reckon probably after the bye is when you'll see him be slowly integrated into main training, a few more weeks in the VFL from then. So I'd say if I have to put a round on it, it'll probably be round 16 or 17 that you can probably realistically, touch wood, think about him playing without anything going on. But he's looking really, really good. And for Oscar McDonald, I haven't really seen him do much. So to get that report this week saying that he's actually going really well and it looks like he'll be back in the ball program this week's actually really promising, because we need that taller depth and coverage at either end of the ground, it looks like. So that's a great update on Oscar, and hopefully he can get back soon.
Yeah, and absolutely.
I cannot wait for Brodie Kemp to come in and play. And again, it will be a slow burn and a bit of patience, but it looks like he's going to be a real player for us as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Blue Bag is out there. Comment your predictions for this week's game. Who's going to win and by how much? And on that cue, Jono, what's your tip? Who's going to win and what will the margin be?
Well, it's going to be us. It has to be us. Otherwise, it's going to be a very interesting week down on Royal Parade. But then again, it's Hawthorn. I've only seen us beat Hawthorn about 3 times in my watching footy career, but I'm going to be confident. I'm going to tip us by about 4 to 5 goals. I think Harry Mackay is going to kick another bag and extend his lead at the top of the Coleman medal. And I think Captain Cripper is going to remind everyone and just really put in a performance to remember. What about you?
I'm sort of thinking. I'm really I think we'll win, but I'm really unsure on the margin. I'd love us to blow them out of the water, but I don't know. My gut says if this is a close game, we might be in a little bit of trouble. Clarko is a genius, obviously, in the coaching box.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want us to be in a tight battle with them. I can tell you that much. We need to put them away. I honestly think if it's a close game, I think it just means Hawthorn have worked us out on the day. Because realistically, we are a much better team than Hawthorn. And if that is showing on the day, then we'll win it convincingly. If it's close, it means they've probably worked us out and we might be in a little bit of trouble. But I don't want to go down that path. So I'm going to say Carlton by about 8 goals.
Yeah, I hope you're right. We haven't matched up against Hawthorn well, and I was talking to a Hawthorn colleague today, and he says Hawthorn's probably got the same problem as us, as saying that they don't play 4 quarters of footy and they'll let an opposition team in. But we often have patches where we'll look really, really good, but we just won't be able to put the score on the board. So got no doubt that portion of the game is 100% going to come again. We just really need to make sure we take every opportunity afforded to us today, because this could be the day where we really kickstart the second half of our season and our run. It could also be the day where it just all falls into a heap and it becomes too much and leaves us with way too much to do in the back end of the season. So I'm confident that we can get the job done, but there's always that bit of apprehension.
Jono, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Now, just before we end it, it's time. We need to let the Blue Baggers know, don't go anywhere, because the round 10 preview will premiere at 9 p.m. tonight. So chuck a bag of popcorn in the microwave, get a blanket, and get ready, because 9 p.m., it's only in 28 minutes, the round 10 preview will premiere.
It's a good one, as always. It's doing some great work, Terry, and everyone, just make sure you keep getting around him.
Yep, absolutely. Jono, thank you. Blue Baggers, thank you for tuning in. And Jono, hopefully we can do this again soon.
It's been a pleasure, mate. It's always good to join you either on the podcast or up on here. So it's always good. You guys are doing sensational work, and let's keep on getting around the Blues media than talking about things the right way. And yeah, because we'll talk real stuff. We'll talk facts. We won't spin any garbage.
Love it, Jono. Blue Baggers, thank you for tuning in to another week of Blues Footy Live in the books. We'll do it all again next week. Thank you.